Mark, welcome back to the show. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
Man, you're moving fast. I got to keep doing shows to keep up with you because you are doing research in an area that is supremely interesting to me because it's a very high leverage space. And the area in which I think more and more research needs to go. And you're at the bleeding edge, just doing it yourself. Big pharma doesn't have any interest in this. The big conglomerates have no interest in putting money into this because you're solving big healthcare problems at scale with technology solutions that are cheap. And that's not good for business, but I think that's a great story. So tell me what this latest research has been about so we could catch the audience up and we could dive deep.
Yeah, so we're just looking at heart rate variability using vagus nerve stimulation on the Vibe or the new product Vega Vibe, which is just a pendant, right? So and what heart rate variability is, and most people that aren't familiar with it, is you want your heart rate to come down, which is what the data is showing. And this is all based on a 30-minute session, one 30-minute session. The heart rate comes down. Your heart rate variability, which is the time between beats, is you want it to actually increase for more stability, better fight or flight balance, better gut health, better sleep, better everything. And so what we're showing is the heart rate statistically has come down, and it's all statistical. Third-party lab did all this testing and stuff. And the heart rate variability increased up to 50%. At first, I said, is 50%, it's not that great. And the doctor goes, you're out of your mind, because there's professional athletes that would pay $1 million for it to go up 5% just to get that much performance. So that's really exciting. I've tested it on myself and my whole company. Everyone in my company has one, and we're getting biomarkers with our own watches and rings that are coming out. And so it's cool. Like heart rate variability for an old man like me, if it's above 30, that's probably good. Mine's gone from 30 to 60. And the trend is going that way, like it's staying or going higher in the last 2 weeks. So it's in the heart, in the vagus nerve, for people that don't know, it's like the 10th cranial nerve, I think. It goes in your brain, comes down both sides of your neck. It clusters around your heart, and then it goes to all of your organs and to your whole body. So it's this super highway where your brain's talking to your organs and your organs are talking to your brain. And so if you can get that tuned correctly, which is what these are doing. What I think is unique is most people want to use stimulators. First of all, vagus nerve stimulators traditionally are horrible. They got to cut you open to put you inside you, right? In the back of your neck or in the base of your spine. The new devices coming out like ours are external, right? They're non-invasive, but most of them are shocking your neck because the vagus nerve is closest to the skin at the neck is the logic. But most people are not realizing there's a big cluster around your heart. So something like a pendant is a great way to go do it. So yeah, that's what we're seeing is both subjective and objective data is we're measuring heart rate variability, power levels, a whole bunch of stuff with sophisticated Italian equipment in a lab that I don't understand. And then we have subjective data. Do you feel better? Are you more relaxed? Blah, blah, blah. And objective data like sleep and those things. So we're seeing statistically significant changes. The cool part, Pedram, is this is after one 30-minute session. We're just now testing what does it look like if you keep using it for 3 weeks, right? And so we don't even have that data yet from the independent lab. But it's very exciting because you can see it and measure it, and you actually feel it. You feel better. People are reporting less anxiety. They feel more relaxed. They feel a better sense of well-being. That's what the data's showing.
Yeah, this whole area of the vagus nerve, it's called the wanderer, travels down two-way innervation, getting data, sending data. And so it's the communication network between the brain and the viscera. But it's also the crux between this whole area of sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system, fight or flight versus rest and digest. And so I've really been geeking out on old stuff, right? What does your gut tell you? What does your heart tell you? So what does your heart tell you is a very interesting perspective shift where you shift your attention to feeling an area around the heart. So what's the nerve that gets innervated when you shift your awareness down there? It's like now you're triggering your vagus nerve. So stimulating your vagus nerve through deep breathing of the lower abdomen, stuff that we've been doing in ancient practices for a very long time. The problem is, I've been, man, it's been 30 years where I'm like, oh, here's, you do this breath work and it changes your life. And it is 100% true statement. The people who do the breath work have their lives changed and are like, holy crap, that worked for me. I'm a new man. I'm a new woman. That's 5% of the population. Everyone else is, what is Bayer creating for my ailment? Right. And people don't do the stuff. And so a few years ago, I started toying with gadgets, first on the read end, right? So I'm wearing my ring and my band, and I'm always grabbing the data. And I have direct correlation with my personal practice to show my heart rate variability shifting for the better with doing my mind-body practices. So then I started playing with devices like vagus nerve stimulators and say, come on, I was a skeptic. You're a rocket scientist. A scientist is a skeptic. So you start as a skeptic and you're like, come on, this can't possibly work. And you're like, oh, damn, it did. And so the idea that you can get a glimpse into the impact of the nervous system in just a single session, and then a week, 30 days, these are still data points you haven't even been able to gather yet, and bring that back to say, what does that do downstream in my life? You're just at the front end of this, but I know you get just testimonial after testimonial of people calling in. You just sent me one before the call. Holy crap. So I would love for you to talk about the squishy stuff, right? Because we don't have data on 30 days out, but people say, hey man, I've been wearing this for X amount of days and here's what I've experienced.
Yeah. And in fact, the video I just sent you, I don't know if you had a chance to watch it yet. The guy bought it intentionally because he wanted to prove it didn't work. He's going to try to call me out. And he's, you know what? I bought this. You'll see in the thing. I'm very skeptical. This thing ain't going to work. And it's only weighs 1.5 ounces. It can't do anything. In fact, it looks heavy. It's not. It weighs the same as a toothbrush, not an electric toothbrush, an old style toothbrush. And some of the other ways you're alluding to a pattern, right? And how is it easy for people to use? The other way to proven many times to stimulate your vagus nerve is jump in a pool of ice water, right? And shock your body. But who's got a pool of ice water? And that isn't real convenient and it's shocking, right? One of the cool things with any of the devices we're doing is I'm calling it a litmus test, is because people forget how bad they felt 30 days. So even if you're not measuring with a ring or whatever, the most powerful litmus test is go ask your friends and family if you're not being a dick anymore. Literally. And that's the feedback we're getting from a bunch of people when they'll say, yeah, I'm not sure. I say, go ask your wife and your kids. And they go, you know what? I don't have to, because I already know what the answer is going to be, because they want to be around me more. They're hanging out with me more. So that's another cool thing. That's the simplest litmus test ever is why did Johnny invite you to the barbecue and he hasn't for 2 years? Because you started not being a jerk, right? So that's a really cool thing to measure too, is just what other people see. We hear a lot of that too. With the teacher will call the parents and go, so you changed Johnny's prescription to another med, didn't you? Because he's paying attention now. So, no, we didn't. We started using these devices. So you get feedback from your teachers and your families and your friends. So that's a cool way. And we tell everyone that's one of your best litmus tests is just ask the people around you if they think you are different and you're acting more pleasant, those type of things.
Yep. We have a lot of human data that we disregard. And the people, like my wife is probably the best assay of how this guy's doing, right? Pure and simple in everything, in every measure, because they've been around you this long. And there's other ones. There's other ones like how many times a day do you go to the bathroom? That's a pretty consistent daily habit. And for some people, unfortunately, it's less than one time a day. They go number 2. Book says you go 3 times, but you should be going 2 to 3 times a day, number 2. And one of the things I've noticed with vagus nerve stimulation is once you start to adjust vagal tone, you start to get more regularity in the bowels. Why? Because it's the parasympathetic tone of the smooth muscles of the large intestine that are driving very slow rhythmic movement. And the slow rhythmic movement is what's been missing in our lives because we have the fast twitchy crap that overrides it. Right. And so for me, this is like a radio tower just saying, chill out to the body all day. I'm sure you're getting some of that kind of coming in anecdotally as well.
I haven't asked that question. I will. Now you brought that up, because on the Vibe product, we have a specific protocol for constipation, which I warn people that one's going to work. So be ready if you're constipated and you want to be out with a party or whatever, where you don't have access to a toilet. But no, we haven't tested that with specific to vagus nerve toning, but I'm going to add that to the subjective questionnaire that we have. That's a perfect thing to ask.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I had one of my Vibe device on me. I was at a friend's birthday in LA, and these are grown-ups who listen to really loud music and party late into the night. And so I went, I'm good for one big night. So we wake up the next morning, and one of my buddies got this terrible ringing in his ear because he unwittingly was by the DJ most of the night. I'm too old and too smart to do that. I was in the back of the club, and he just had this terrible high-pitched ringing. And I was like, hey, there's a tinnitus setting on this thing. And so I didn't tell him because I don't want placebo strong. So I just put it on the tinnitus thing. I'm like, hey, wear this for a minute. And he comes running back 5 minutes later. He's like, what the hell happened? My ringing just stopped. And I was like, whoa, okay. And so I don't understand how that happens, right? But I have data points that always come back to me that point to the fact that you adjust the energy, you adjust the nervous system, everything else, it's a top-down system, everything else starts to resolve. So you started with the kind of the big, more elaborate gadget that has lots of different programs. We talked about this before, but then you're wearing the pendant there. This is just a vagus nerve stimulator, right? So the VaguVibe is a little bit more of a targeted, I wouldn't call it a therapy, a targeted device. Why this? Why this way? What is this doing differently, and what are the efficiencies gained by getting the smaller unit to wear all the time?
Very good question. So again, on the original Vibe, you can wear around your neck. One complaint that we get some people, and it's justified, is the power coming out of the coils on the backside. You want it against your skin. So if you don't have it on the inside of your shirt and it starts to flip, if you're sitting at your desk, it's no big deal. But if you're out walking, it starts to flip around. So it annoys some people. So they put it inside their shirt, and it does get up to 104 or 5 Fahrenheit. So sometimes it can be a little warm if there's no ventilation on the inside of your shirt. So one of the things that we did, take it off so I can show you, which is one of the things that's in the patent is, and this is like a little magnetic field tester, right? So the coils are right here at the top. You can see it jumping around. But what we designed these is that it's 360. And so it doesn't matter how it's laying against your body. It puts out the same amount of energy, which that was not easy to figure out how to design coils to go do that. That's one piece. Is it doesn't matter how you wear it, is however it bounces around, find it. And it looks like jewelry. I wanted to make it much smaller. It looks heavy. Like I said, it's only 1.5 ounces. But the technology, and you said something earlier before we started about the battery. It is what it is right now because I don't want it to be heavy. It's got about a 7-hour battery in it now, but it looks like jewelry and it's cool. It's a conversation piece if you want it to be, but if you're wearing this out at the restaurant, it may look like you're getting some kind of therapy, and that bothers some people. But that's it. We get asked that question all the time. Do I need both of them? From a marketing perspective, I want to say yes. The answer is no, because they both will do it. There's just subtle things like that it's a piece of jewelry you can wear. I want to make it smaller, but the amount of stuff we had to do that I don't even understand to get it from an MP3 to a certain waveform, to get it into a chip that's as small as it is and as light as it is, I honestly don't understand the engineering. I'm not an electrical engineer. The guy designs, like, this is what it's doing, Mark, and literally had to ask questions over and over to file the patent so that I could write the words correctly to even say what we're actually doing. So there's a lot of technology nobody cares about that's inside of it to make it light and small, but it's just that it's more convenient. But it's a piece of jewelry. And like I said, that from a technical point of view, it doesn't matter which direction it is. So we don't have to worry about it flipping back and forth. But both devices will stimulate the vagus nerve. And we have clinical data on both that show that it's basically brainwave theta and alpha. So it's in that range, and homeostasis, or you'll correct me, whatever the correct word is. If you just run 9 hertz, the body's going to get used to it, and it's not as therapeutic or effective. So it has to move around a little bit so that the body, it's changing the frequency from 8 to 9, right? So we tested a whole bunch of different programs. The good news was they all worked, but they all worked better in a certain category. So for 2 kinds of heart rate variability, right? You got RM, SSD, and SSDN. SSDN is more clinical, long-term. RM, SSD is the stuff that's on most wearables because it's easier to measure short-term, blah, blah, blah. So one protocol was better here, and the other one's better there, okay? And then you looked at heart rate, and then you looked at sleep, and you looked at general well-being, and they all performed, improved, but some performed. So it's a hard decision to figure out which program. I shouldn't have wrote 3 of them. because it made the testing a lot harder. It's like, okay, out of these three, they all work. Which ones do we actually use? And we ended up picking SDNN as the main litmus one because it's the most clinical one for research papers that doctors would understand, that they could relate to, even though it's not the one that you're measuring here. They're related, obviously, but it's different mathematics on how you measure them. So that was hard to figure out which one to pick. But I had to pick one. So we did.
That's a tough one. I hear that a lot about the different kind of siloed data buckets, right? So Aura they do their math in a certain way, and Aura speaks Aura, and you can't come out of there. And there's a lot of the kind of Apple versus Google thing that's going on between people trying to dominate and hold data. But the data's to be shared and interpreted, and done so obviously in a HIPAA compliant way so that you can learn from it. I think that's going to shift in the industry because HRV is becoming so widely accepted. Jeff Bland just a little while ago was telling me this new study came out in 2024. It's like, we understand that HRV is a very good indicator of overall health. You can now start to correlate it with secretory IgA. So all your gut health stuff is correlated. This is the future of medicine, and hoarding data and keeping it in your own algos, I think, is changing. Europe, unfortunately, at the bloody nose end of that, trying to figure out how the hell to do your experiments and whose data to do it under. One of the things I'd love to explore with you is we actually have the integration through our HIPAA compliant platform of pretty much all the wearable devices. So what I'd love to pitch you on is saying, look, I know you want to offer a discount of the Vague Vibes to our people. I'd like to say, hey, listen, if you agree to do it and just wear your wearables and do it inside of this portal, it's your data. No one's sharing the data, but we're studying the data in aggregate form in a HIPAA compliant place. I'd like to pitch you on saying maybe give a deeper discount to anyone who wants to join the study, and we could all learn from the data, right? And that's where I'm really interested, is to say, look, okay, you wore this for a day, your HRV was better, hallelujah. What does that mean downstream? But if you start to track that over 30 days, 60 days, and we have the data there, and we could also correlate that with sleep, you could correlate that with energy levels. You start correlating that with, if you later on, you just do a blood stick and get hormonal levels. There's so much to be gleaned from what happens downstream when you fix HRV, that this is where I'm geeking out on it. There's a lot.
Yeah, you don't need to pitch me on it. Let's do it. We just de-identify the data, right? You strip everyone's name from it, which I do on every single study. In fact, on testimonials, when I tell people on video testimonials, if you don't want to say your name, don't say it. If you don't even want to be on camera, just hold the thing and talk. How far you want to separate. But yeah, collecting that data, because the more and more stuff we can, again, you said I'm a rocket scientist. 27 years ago, I didn't believe any of this crap. I'm not sure I still do pieces of it, right? But it's like, there's data. I'm going to tell you a story real quick, because this thing that we're coming out with, this actually changed my life yesterday. I'm going to tell you how. I had this severe anxiety with blood pressure, right? Because it's ruined my life. It kicked me out of the Army before I got in the Army. I don't even have high blood pressure, but when it spikes and a doctor sees it, one doctor tried to kill me by doubling my medication, and my blood pressure dropped so low I couldn't get off the couch to call 911. This is a true story. So I'm scared to death 24/7 thinking about my blood pressure. I hate to go measure it. I don't even want to think about it, right? So this thing is like, it has blood pressure on it. And it's like, I didn't turn it on. I was just afraid to. I turned it on yesterday, and I didn't realize it's been taking my blood pressure for 2 weeks. My blood pressure's been fine, 118/75 or something on average. I'm like, that is the biggest sigh of relief now that, okay, my blood pressure is fine. It's just when I go to that stupid machine. Now I just measured it when I didn't know I was measuring it. So there's that data. It's like, you can't imagine this has bothered me for 40 years, right? Yesterday, I'm like, I now have, wait a minute, it's okay. Now I have something to show the doctor, right? Here's what it looks like when I'm not scared of the machine. Here's when I don't know it's there, that whole white coat, whatever. That's a really cool thing that, I don't know how that really folds in, but that's, what's his name? I'm trying to think of the doctor. But anyway, he talks about like the top 10 things when you get your blood pressure taken, how your doctors are doing it wrong. First of all, the 120/80 stuff is supposed to be 15 minutes of relaxation, not moving, sitting in a chair, not with your feet dangling off an exam table. It's not supposed to be cold, right? Most doctor rooms are freezing cold. So there's all these different things that jack up your blood pressure that is stuff that doctors don't even realize they're doing. Taking control of your own life, all this stuff with measuring it yourself. And people that would know me laugh, all my friends, because they know this is true. When I have a new doctor and I walk in and the doctor starts talking, I go, stop. You're going to get a presentation. Sit down. Here's my cholesterol. Here's my blood. Don't react to anything that you just saw, because here's what I've been doing long term. I'm measuring it, that stuff. And doctors, what's wrong with this guy? Does he need a Valium? I'm like, no, I don't need a Valium. I'm just telling you, I don't want you making weird decisions and stuff based on your 10-minute assessment of me. So this whole thing, this whole stuff is really cool. It's let people take control of their own health, right? And fighting back some. Here's how sad it is. In 120/80, and then it moved to 115/75. I've been asked that question for a decade. Who moved the number and why? There's no data anywhere to support that whatsoever. Okay. Do you know what your blood pressure should be if you're an old man like me, over 60? I'm 63. Not 120/80. It should be 140/90. Where'd that data come from? The largest study ever done without doctors handpicking the data. It's 450,000 sample set. Okay. I go to my doctor. I summarize this. Please read this. She goes like this. Moved her eyes away from me and goes, I'm not going to read that. Don't care. I'm going to do what the American Medical Association tells me to do. And that's it. It's sad, but that's 95% of most doctors out there. I'm going to stay out of trouble and do what I'm told to do.
A good stormtrooper takes their orders from the top. That's the problem, is the dissemination of that. And when you say it used to be 120/80 and they moved it to 115, who makes money if the number goes down? The guy who makes the beta blocker. Right. So it's just a cosmic joke that we believe in a system that is so corrupted, right? Not necessarily the individual doctors. There's plenty of really good ones within the system trying to help people. But the system itself, top down, is a form of thought slavery that has been corrupted. And if I tell you, you go sit under a tree, you do a little breathing, you wear a little gadget, and all your medications go away, that is bad for business. And that's why I like what you're doing, right? It's bad for business healing people in a sick care system. Now, you touched on a couple things that I find to be profound. I'm doing a research study. I'm going to pull you in on it about neuroception, safety signaling, and this idea that when an animal feels safe, it can heal. And when an animal doesn't feel safe, it pushes all the blood to the periphery and says, we're at war. We're not going to deal with school books this week. The idea of your blood pressure spiking with the white coat syndrome, and you now having data on one end to say, on a normal day, I'm fine. So it must be this occurrence where I have an anxiety attack and I have you have a spike with your sympathetic nervous system. Okay. Now I recognize that this is so it's gnosis, right? I now recognize that I am a normally functioning human and I have a traumatic event and a spike around this one thing that's psychosomatic and is actually showing up in my blood pressure. Got it. We've seen this plenty. But now I'm wearing this gadget around my neck that is entraining my system to use the vagus nerve and drive my nervous system more and more towards the parasympathetic nervous system. So for me, the real question becomes, can we create a beachhead into parasympathetic dominance and then keep pumping the troops in there until we've landed and we've taken Normandy? And that is where the medicine, I think, is going, is if we can entrain your nervous system to be parasympathetic dominant, then you're sick less of the time. And when you have this, oh my God, the guy's going to take my blood pressure, you have enough of the resilience and fuse link there to maybe self-correct at a certain point, because we've entrained and empowered your nervous system to do. And that's where I think this will go with time.
Yeah, let me look real fast what the doctor's name was yesterday, if I can find. But it was a webinar, and the reason I attended it because the title got my attention, but it was basically, you can't heal it all. Doesn't matter what disease you have if you don't have your vagus nerve toned. And he goes through this whole thing at the mitochondria level and the cell level and what it's actually doing. It was a very interesting presentation. It's like, I've never seen anyone present that.
Send it to me. Find it, please.
Yeah, well, because you never heard of you've never gone to your doctor and have them say that, hey, you have whatever gut issues and blah, blah. But before we start treating you with pills and stuff for your gut, get this vagus nerve tone and see what happens. Here's an extreme case of this. Good friend of mine. He went to severe pain in his testicles and his stomach, and I don't know if he has cancer, trying to find what's wrong. And they couldn't. And then a psychiatrist, there's pros and cons to this, unfolded what had happened. He was raped by a priest as a child multiple times. He didn't remember it until it got brought out. But it helped, but he still had all his pain. He started running Vega Vibe and stuff. And I'm going to cry because the guy's had the shittiest life for the last 10 years, just constantly wanting to commit suicide, and it's awful. And now he's like super happy. He's joyful. He's in Toronto. When you come in to visit me, his life has completely changed. And it started with an underlying trauma thing, but just tuning it up, human tuning fork, I guess you can call these things. It got his system back in alignment. Yep. It's cool.
It's when you have an overbearing trauma, it's like a thumb on your head and you just can't lift your head out of that. And sometimes it takes all the king's horses and all the king's men, but sure, talk to the therapist, pull out the stories and all that. But the entrainment of the nervous system to just hush the crying baby and say it's safe is a huge place where I think the emergence of this medicine is going to radically transform how we've been looking at ill health. And man, you're on the cutting edge of it. I really appreciate being where you're at. It's usually, they say, the first guy who walks in the door is the guy who gets shot, right? Like you've been tinkering with these devices as a rocket scientist, now into like electrical engineering for a while. You came in as a skeptic and you've proven to yourself that this isn't bullshit. And now all these people are coming back to you saying, holy crap, what have you done? This works. I'm shocked all the time when people come back saying the stuff that I've studied for 30, 50 years works. And we're just at the beginning of this. So you have the Vega Vibe that is more affordable. And we'll put a couple links down here. I would like to pitch you on saying, give me a discount for my general audience, and then give me a deeper discount for anyone who is willing to participate in the research study and have their data anonymized and things, just to move the science forward. That's my biggest interest in this, is if we can move the science forward, we can help more people. And if you want to help yourself and help more people, you deserve a deeper discount. We'll figure that out. We'll put that on this page to help people help other people. And I appreciate the work that you're doing. I never have repeat guests this way, but I was going to show the Vega Vibe during the show, and our friend Elena was over here, and she's, oh my God, can I borrow that? I can't find mine. And I was just like, all right, I never want people to suffer. I'm like, yeah, take mine. And then I was like, oh shit, I needed that for the show. It's gone. So I can't keep it on my desk.
When I started this, my wife goes, well, this whole business model doesn't make sense because it's not consumable. So a person's going to buy one and then that's it. And I'm like, nope. Friends and family are going to borrow it. I have people who bought 15, 20 of them that aren't even wholesalers. That's because they got friends and family and stuff. So that part of the business model is working. Is even though it's not a consumable like a drug, they could share it all the time, right? Or
listen, if you have 8 billion customers, you're fine. You're retired. So you're doing fine. We've actually been giving them, all of our high ticket clients, we're now giving these devices to, because it helps so much that I just want this in your life. And they love it. They love it. So I'm a big fan of vagus nerve stimulation. I'm a big fan of how you've been able to create an affordable device for the masses. And I said this in our last interview, but if you haven't seen that one, well, we used to have these types of devices in clinic. I'd buy it for $20,000, $30,000, and we'd have to charge a couple $100 a visit. People would come in, take time away from their lives, have to find parking, all the crap that goes into healthcare to get the help that they were getting. And now it's like you get this little gadget, you wear it all the time, and you feel better. Doggy bag. It's just so much easier. The doctor doesn't make money, but the person, the human, is healthier and happier, and society's better off. So I like that. I like that innovation, that intervention into a broken medical model, and just letting people go to.
Like you said, the doctor doesn't make money in the broken medical model. The reason I'm staying away from traditional medical is because everyone in that food chain has to make money, and there's a half a dozen or more of them, and you can't make it affordable that way.
Yes.
So it's WIFM. What's in it for me? This sale, it's so convoluted between, and it's a weird thing. Is like, how come normal MDs don't know about it? It's, okay, what's their continuing education? What is it? It's flying to a resort somewhere from a drug company that's going to tell you about the new drug. That's it. Yep. That's what their continuing education is every year. So they're just not haven't been exposed to it. But anyway, yeah. Thank you so much for giving them to your clients and stuff. We have. I changed subject to something I'm really excited about, because I have multiple friends who've had cancer, and stem cell therapy made it just gone, just disappeared. And so we have some doctors that don't want to be named, but they're opening a whole bunch of stem cell treatment clinics in the US, and they're using these devices to try and prep the cells to be able to take the therapy more effectively. No idea if it'll work, right? Mm-hmm. So we're using AI and stuff and saying which protocols would best do that and blah, blah, blah. And we're testing a bunch of those things. And that's super exciting to see. Another weird one, just to throw it out, is because you said proving it works. You can infuse these frequencies into cream and then put the cream on. So we're going to have the only peptide infused frequency enhanced anti-wrinkle system. We'll have that. They're on order now. But I hate wrinkle commercials because they're photoshopped. The before and after pictures, I hate them. They're awful. But so I'm struggling right now. How do I prove that? How do I prove it without a before and after picture that it's working? So if you got any ideas on that down the road, tell me, because we're trying to figure that out right now. Is there can I measure something? Is there a resiliency test on the skin? Is there some conductivity, something I can probe, right? Instead of the before and after picture of Cindy Crawford that's completely photoshopped. Right.
30 years later. Yeah. I know a guy. I'm going to hook you up with that. And just on the first statement that you made, I would put good money on saying whatever it is, it's going to be better because of this data. I've been on PubMed a lot, and neuroception and the ability to enhance healing by making the body feel safe and pushing parasympathetic dominance, I think is going to radically transform medicine in a way that we haven't even begun to understand. And so my money is on whatever the stem cell treatments are, for whatever reason they're doing it, whether it's cancer or longevity and all that, bringing the nervous system online and making the body receptive in a healing state is tantamount. And that's what we're talking about here. And so it's a very different form of medicine, is setting, safety, then things work better. And that's literally where we're at. That's what we're talking about with these gadgets. Again, I'm a big proponent of saying learn how to breathe and do Qigong and all that. But I am a data-driven, evidence-based guy. And I can tell you right now, as much as I love like the woo and the old stuff, the gadgets are working. And so when you see data that is substantial, it has to change your thesis. So for me, it's not ancient stuff only. The gadgets are working. Look at the gadgets too. It's amazing.
Very good point.
Yeah. All right, man. Always a pleasure. We'll put links to everything we talked about on this page, and I'm going to let you go back to tinkering in your lab. Every time I talk to you, you got something new going on, so I don't want to get in the way of that. Keep going.
Thank you so much. Appreciate having me again.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.